What is up, YouTube? It is I, the movie nerd, back to give you guys something different this time. So as all of you know, I've been doing recaps for all of the Marvel Netflix shows since Daredevil Season 1 dropped 2 years ago. And I also did a recap for the first season of Stranger Things. I was keeping my TV recaps exclusively to Netflix, but there was a TV series just recently wrapped that I simply could not ignore. This show was so good, so interesting, such a fantastic new original show that it has inspired me to create an entirely new YouTube channel dedicated to television. And that show is Westworld. So here we go, this is my official recap and review for the brand new HBO TV series, Westworld. But this will be a spoiler-filled recap, so if you have not seen any of the series, check out now. You have been warned. So a lot of you might be asking, what exactly is Westworld? Well, Westworld started off as a novel written by Michael Crichton, the same guy who wrote Jurassic Park. He then later wrote and directed the film adaptation, which was released in 1973, starring Yul Brynner. The novel/film is set around a theme park styled after a Western, in which regular people can go and participate in a Western themed park, participating in such games as visiting the local whorehouse, participating in shoot-'em-ups, fighting Native Americans, you know, all of the other activities that people typically partook in the Old West life. The park guests also interact with robots designed by the park creators in order to make their experience more visceral. However, the robots, also called hosts, are stuck in continuous loops that force them to relive the same storyline day in and day out. And now, in this adaptation for television that has been developed by the powerhouse creative team that is J.J. Abrams, Jonathan Nolan, and Lisa Joy, the hosts are starting to wake up and are beginning to realize that their world really is just an illusion, and they want out. So, for starters, this show did something for me that not a whole lot of movies and TV shows have been doing for me lately, and that is it really made me think. This is a mind-bending, brain-warping, flips-you-on-your-head, Sixth Sense level brain work with plenty of twists and turns involved. So this particular series starts off with cowboy Teddy Flood, who's portrayed by James Marsden. He arrives by train in the old western town of Stillwater. He meets up with his lover, local rancher's farmer daughter, Dolores Abernathy. After retreating to her farm, however, they discover that it has been raised by the mysterious man in black, who was Yul Brynner's character in the 73 film. Here, however, he is portrayed by Ed Harris, who I thought personally killed it in the role, but he is vastly different character this time than he was in the film. For starters, in the film, the man in black is a host, but here he is clearly a human. This scene alone is the breakthrough part that really distinguishes the TV series from the film, as the man in black proceeds to shoot Teddy dead after Teddy's bullets merely graze him before proceeding to drag Dolores into the barn, presumably to rape her. The scene then proceeds to the inner workings of the park, where we are introduced to a host of the park's designers and runners. You've got Dr. Bernard Lowe, played by Jeffrey Wright, who is the head of programming and the designer of most of the hosts. Then there's Teresa Cullen, played by Sidse Babe Knudsen, the head of park operations. Elsie Hughes, played by Shannon Woodward, Bernard's right-hand woman, who is also in charge of going through bugs in each of the host systems. And you got Lee Sizemore, played by Simon Quarterman, the narrative director who's in charge of writing storylines for the hosts to follow within the park. Ashley Stubbs, played by the third Hemsworth brother, Luke Hemsworth, the park's chief of security. And the head honcho, the creator of the park itself, Dr. Robert Ford, played by Anthony Hopkins. Ford created the entire park and a batch of the first hosts, along with his first partner, Arnold, who died under mysterious circumstances. Those mysterious circumstances, which do end up playing a massive part closer to the end of the series. In terms of other hosts, I already mentioned Dolores and Teddy, but some of the other ones that do play a major part in the series include Maeve Millay, played by Thandie Newton, the madam of the local brothel, and local outlaws Hector Escaton and Armistice, played by Rodrigo Santoro and Ingrid Bolsa-Berdal. Rounding out the cast are newcomers William and Logan, played by Jimmy Simpson and Ben Barnes, entrepreneurs who are visiting the park in order to determine whether to buy stock in it, who end up way more invested than they originally anticipated. So as I stated above, I absolutely love this show. This first season in particular had just so many different layers to it, and it was almost like an onion in terms of the fact that every time one question was answered, just 10 more would pop up out of nowhere, and I absolutely loved it. It was the first show I've seen since Game of Thrones that had such a vast, extremely rich world that I wanted to be invested, that I wanted to learn more about. The season finale, in my opinion, was probably the best first season finale that I've seen in a long time, because it did the job that every first season finale is supposed to do. Wrap up the seasonal story arcs, leave room for new stories to explore in later seasons, and leave the viewer asking tons of questions and wanting them to see more. In terms of acting, I don't even know where to begin, because almost every single performance was absolutely out of this world. First off, just Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Ford, it was such a different level of acting than I've seen all year. It's really hard to describe. He was so damn subtle throughout all 10 episodes. You never knew whether he was helping someone or screwing them over, but whatever the scenario was, he was always the one in control. Even in the season finale, when all hell finally broke loose, he was still the one in control, a puppet master till the end. I'm so glad Anthony Hopkins came back to TV, even if it was just for this season, and I hope to God he is still involved in later seasons. I have a feeling that he will be. But he's not the only one that gave a great performance. Evan Rachel Wood as Dolores, the hostess with the mostest, completely killed it. She managed to deliver a sort of innocence throughout the entire first season that really left the viewers wondering up until the end whether she was a puppet being used as part of a greater plan, or she actually had some thoughts of her own in terms of where she would go later on. Then you got Jeffrey Wright, who absolutely killed it as Bernard. He was another one whose performance was fueled by so much subtlety that it only made the twists and the turns of the character even more fantastic. So then Thandie Newton as Maeve was a character that I thought I wasn't going to like, but ended up becoming much more and more intrigued in. The only disappointment that I have towards the character is the fact that I thought that she was going to be the first host to finally escape the park and be our eyes to what the outside world would really look like, but unfortunately we never did get that. I also really enjoyed the duo of Jimmy Simpson and Ben Barnes. I know Jimmy Simpson because of his small stint in House of Cards. Also, he had a bit role in Breakout Kings, which he absolutely killed it in. And he was great in this in the sense of who he was as a character and how he was really growing and expanding thanks to the park coming into his own. Helped along, of course, by Ben Barnes' explosive performance. Ben Barnes I'm particularly amazed in because considering the fact that I've only really seen him in one other thing since he played Prince Caspian in the Chronicles of Narnia, the second installment, the dude really killed it. I would say that both of these guys were probably in the top 5 best performances of the season. And then there is Ed Harris. And no, this is not me segueing from great actors from the show into bad ones, but more so into another great one, because Ed Harris, in my opinion, was another one of the best parts about this show. I loved his lone survivor mentality, and it was so damn interesting to see someone who really understands just the game of the park and how to take full advantage of it. What made it even better, however, was when he revealed that he just wanted to find something real, and even after spending years in the park the way he did, doing as he pleased, he wanted to play a game in which there were real stakes that could seriously affect him. It's just made even more interesting, especially when it's revealed that he actually is a much older William. So like I said, this is a very expansive world that I really wanted to know more about. For example, the burning question inside everyone's mind. What the hell does the real world look like? What happened to the rest of the people who are at that gala besides Ford? Does William survive? What happened to Logan? When did Ford have a change of heart regarding Arnold's plan? All of these questions are questions that I personally was left with after that first season finale. So to elaborate just a little bit more, as I said, William is revealed to be the Man in Black due to the fact that since the storyline is being told from Dolores' point of view, she is actually seeing 2 separate timelines simultaneously. Because she's a host, she doesn't age, so us as the viewers can sort of be thrown off by that. And now for the biggest plot twist of the show, and that is the revelation concerning both Bernard and Dr. Ford's late partner, Arnold. Earlier in the season, Bernard stumbled into a section of the park in which Ford was keeping several hosts from the first generation he and Arnold ever constructed. They are younger versions of himself and his brother, supposedly to remind him of his youth. However, when Bernard is taking Teresa, with whom he has been having a sexual affair with over the last couple of episodes, he takes her down to show her proof of that Ford may be losing his edge. He discovers a secret bunker underneath, in which he discovers designs of a host that bears a remarkable resemblance to him. Ford then arrives and drops the biggest plot twist of the season, that Bernard is actually a host and has been following his commands throughout the entire season. He then proceeds to have Bernard kill Teresa by bashing her head against the wall. I didn't really feel that much sympathy for her, considering the fact that she wasn't a very likable character due to the fact that she was just a pawn being used by the board to push Ford out, as well as the actress who played her just gave kind of a meh performance, I thought. But as if the Bernard being a host twist wasn't enough, literally 2 episodes later, he corners Ford using an older host that Ford no longer has any control over, and has Ford allow him to access his earliest memories from the beginning of his creation, in which the horrifying truth is revealed that Bernard was designed as an exact replica of Ford's deceased partner, Arnold. Ford then proceeds to have Burn Arnold, as the fans of the show are now calling him, shoot himself in the head. But this is not the end. No. This is where Dolores comes in, seeing as up until this point she has just been flashing between 2 different timelines, unable to distinguish which one is actual real, just going on adventures with William and Logan. However, because she's a host, she thought that it was all just one adventure over and over again. And that is what eventually drove William away and caused him to become this loner, the Man in Black, who is revealed to not only be a zillionaire, but he also owns Westworld, as it is revealed that after he left Logan in the park, he took over controlling interest in Westworld's board of directors, effectively making him the chief honcho in charge of everything. So in episode 9, Dolores realizes realizes that her interviews with Bernard have actually been flashbacks to Arnold, all within her mind. And she realizes finally that she actually killed Arnold. An episode later, however, some context is given as to why this happened. While interrogating her, Arnold realized that the hosts are truly alive and wanted to close the park and set them free. Ford was against this, and their ensuing argument caused their falling out. However, Arnold created a backdoor in their coding that would allow the hosts to eventually break their story loops and become free, referred by him as the Maze. Dolores assumes the identity of the bloodthirsty outlaw Wyatt, who along with Teddy kills a whole bunch of hosts in order to stall the opening of the park, in which she also shoots Arnold in the back of the head before proceeding to shoot Teddy and then herself. Fast forward 30 years to the present day, Ford is preparing to present his new narrative to the board of directors. However, beforehand, he reveals to both Bernard and Dolores that he had finally realized the error of his ways and had actually continued Arnold's work, which included finishing the back door in the host's coding that would allow them to break free of their non-killing restraints. It all climaxes into the final 10 minutes of the show, in which Ford is shot in the back of the head by Dolores, who, along with a series of other older hosts who were thought to be decommissioned, start opening fire into the crowd. Now, the last major storyline that carried throughout the series was Maeve's, starting with her being conscious during a routine cleanup where the park employees come in and reset the hosts to where they are supposed to be at the beginning of their story loops. Maeve then slowly but surely begins remembering things from her previous life, or, from our eyes, her first story arc within the park, which culminated in William, the man in black, stabbing her and killing her daughter. Potential setup for a confrontation down the line. After this, Maeve successfully manages to regain consciousness while being reset and manages to convince the two engineers in charge of her to let her up all her settings to the max in order for her to be aware of what's going on, even as she's undergoing her story arc. She even manages to gain control of some of the other hosts during this, and finally, she begins to make her grand plan to escape, and after managing to reawaken hosts Hector and Armistice, manages to successfully almost make it out of the park. At the very last minute, upon learning from a reawakened Bernardold that her daughter is still alive and in the park, she decides to stay in the park rather than head to the outside world and finally show us what it was like. So again, that was a bummer. Now, in terms of what we are going to see next season, you could absolutely expect to definitely see the park in havoc, what with all the hosts now all fully awake and ready to slaughter any human that displeases them. And I could definitely foresee some kind of showdown taking place early next season. As for the fates of some of the characters though, even though Ford died obviously, I have a feeling that he still has a very large part to play, considering the fact that he designed the entire damn park. And the other thing that caught my eye is, of course, the one that caught everyone's eye. While Maeve was making her way through the facilities to escape, she discovers several samurai hosts fighting, which most definitely confirms that Westworld is not the only theme park that's designed to place guests in a new time period. So I am really, really excited to see what kind of possible crossovers there could be down the line, because like I said, this is a very rich, expansive world that they're going to go very in-depth with, and there's going to be a lot of seasons going forward with more and more interesting characters. It's just, I'm really excited. I want to see, this is a world that I want to see explored. So that's it. That is my full coverage of Westworld, the first season. It was an excellent first season. One of my favorite parts about the television season of 2016, which has just been absolutely excellent for the most part. Seriously, like, the television season of 2016 more than made up for the overly sucktastic movie season of 2016. So, what did you guys think about Westworld? Do you think I revealed too much? Whatever you guys thought, comment below, let me know. Click that like button, subscribe, follow me on Twitter @MovieNerdReview, go to my website, MovieNerdReviews.com, and of course, be sure to check out my brand new YouTube channel, Movie Nerd TV, in which I will be going through a lot of the popular TV shows that are on right now. I will be doing daily recaps and, of course, overall recaps of the seasons once they are finished. So that is it. Until next time, people.